Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising books, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, as well as other fun, informative global cruise personalities. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests. If you hear about a cruise that interests you, book it at www.thejoyofvacation.com or enter to win a free cruise for two. Again, www.thejoyofvacation.com. We really appreciate your feedback, so leave us a text. Paul can't reply, but he may read your text on the air.
Hello, passionate cruisers. This is Paul, and this week on the Joy of Cruising podcast, I am delighted to welcome Matthew Jones of the Cruise Maps. Based in UK, their ingenious, unique products based on maps of your cruise journey is far more than meets the eye. It all starts with your cruise ship's navigation system. While it was designed to help seafarers identify other ships and safely navigate the seas, it also enables the cruise maps to remotely follow the progress of every ship in the world in real time. A massive global network of satellite and land-based receivers are continuously sending signals back to databases to store and analyze the global fleet's movement. This system is used for everything from managing traffic, tracking logistics, identifying illegal fishing, and analyzing global trade. And now for creating cruise maps. Imagine completing that cruise celebrating a milestone like a special birthday. The cruise maps can immortalize that special cruise with a unique, custom-made namesake you won't find in souvenir shops or need to stuff in your luggage. The cruise map story starts in 2007 when partners Matthew and Will were housemates at the University of Southampton, bonding over a shared love of travel, ships, and the ocean. Will was a lifetime sailor and naval architect in training, and Matthew was a geography undergraduate with two seafaring parents who met working on Queen Elizabeth II in the 1980s. Matt and Will found themselves 16 years later in London talking excitedly over breakfast about the possibilities of using satellite data in different ways. It wasn't really a huge surprise. That day, in 2023, they teamed up to create the world's first personalized and entirely accurate print maps for cruise passengers. By using satellite ship tracking data, they managed to build a system that can take a passenger's basic cruise details and create a perfect map of where the ship actually went rather than where it planned to go. Their credo is, we are both perfectionists at heart. We want to create maps that will hang on your walls proudly for decades to come. Oh, by the way, if after listening to Matthew, you choose to order your own cruise map, use my affiliate link, www.thecruisemapscom/joyofcruising10 to automatically receive a 10% discount. Again, that affiliate link will be in the show notes. Welcome, Matthew, to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Thank you very much, Paul. Nice to be here.
It's great to meet you virtually after doing some business with you for a while. How you doing?
I'm doing well. All's going well. We through Black Friday. That was a big couple of weeks for us with our deals we were doing, but yeah, we're through now.
I know it's a big time for you. For the listeners, we are recording this shortly before Christmas. But when you hear this, Happy New Year to you. So yeah, Matthew, it's a busy time for you. I just got something flash across my screen that said if U.S. and U.K. cruisers order your products today, right now it's December 6th. They'll get them in time for Christmas. So I know it's a crazy time.
Yeah, it's the classic getting everything there for Christmas presents before.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Well, I have a history in retail, so I know what you're dealing with. It's a great time, but your head's exploding.
That's it.
I tried to fit a lot into that intro of you, and tried not to overwhelm the listeners with technical jargon. So I'll ask you to, in your own words, talk about what you do at Cruise Maps. But first, fill in some holes about your background, your personal background. Where are you from? Your background before entering the cruise industry. Where do you live now? Anything you're willing to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine the accent kind of gives it away a bit, but I'm a Brit. So I'm based in the UK. I'm pretty recent to the cruise industry. We set up this business back in 2023, early side of 2023. So before that, I was actually working in publishing for many years, and even before that, I was a teacher, as a school teacher. So really got done a lot of things in a lot of years, but no, based in the UK, just outside Oxford.
Congratulations on your business. I am a lifelong entrepreneur, and I'm always intrigued with the entrepreneurial journey of others. Growing up, was it always your goal to have your own business?
Definitely not. No, it wasn't. It was something I've come to later in life. I believe you should kind of find a problem, a gap in the market first, and then figure out something from there, rather than sort of go about it the other way around. And this was pure happenstance. I was talking to a friend of mine about the cruise industry. I've got a bit of history of my family within the cruise industry, and he had been working in the marine industry for us for some time. We just got chatting and realized that there is nothing like what we're doing now with the cruise maps on the market, but there wasn't anything like that, and thought, well, maybe people would like this, and it just exploded from there.
So, no other entrepreneurial ventures prior to the cruise maps?
Just one. So after I left the world of education, teaching, I helped set up a business called Pelago, which was a textbook subscription service. So a little bit like Spotify for textbooks, and ran that for 7 years in the UK. Grew that quite considerably, and I sort of decided to move on from the publishing industry and try something new.
Okay, so you did have a taste of entrepreneurship. So walk the listeners through your career progression. I chatted in the intro about meeting up with Will at the University of Southampton. Walk the listeners through your career progression after the university.
So I left the university, and I sort of went off traveling for a year. Actually, that's where I got my bug for travel, I suppose. And really overland travel was always the kind of key pull for me. I went the length of Africa that year. That was awesome. But then I decided to settle down and get a bit of a proper job, as it were.
That sounds amazing.
It was really cool.
That sounds like we could have you on for another podcast just to talk about that journey.
Absolutely.
I've had quite a few guests who have done some interesting things in Africa, and I'm just amazed at some of the things I hear. So I'm sure that you could add to my digital exploration of Africa until I get there in a few years.
It's a whole nother conversation. There's definitely a few tales going public buses and trains the length of Africa, but no. After that, I sort of promised to my parents. Really, at that point, I was like, I need to get a proper job, and so fell into, and I think it's fair to say, fell into teaching. I was teaching geography, actually, so I'm sort of there. Maybe there's a connection with the maps there, but.
We'll be right back.
The Joy of Cruising podcast guests receive a gift sponsored by GigSky of a 3 gigabyte cruise plus land data package valued at $60. Relying on ship Wi-Fi is slow, unsecure, and sometimes not available. And at foreign ports, travelers don't want to pay their carriers high fees. GigSky provides a solution that will save them a significant amount of money. To get your own data package usable on the ship or in ports, here is my link to GigSky. https://gigsky.pxf.io/NLOXOR. This can be found in the show notes below. For a 10% discount, use the code Joy of Cruising.
Teaching geography, so that's what you studied at Southampton.
Yeah, geography
Well,
to high school
at what
students.
okay, I was just going to ask, what level did you teach? High school? Okay.
High school for 6 years, and then I sort of grew a little tired with it, I suppose, in the sense that it's the same thing every year, and decided I need to do something a little bit different. And through complete roundabout sort of happenstance, as I said, I ended up in the publishing industry. So sort of, I suppose, a step, only a short step from education, I guess, and ended up setting up this company with someone I met online at the time, and yeah, we just grew it over 7 years, and it's still going strong today. But the time was right for me to, a couple of years ago, check out other things, and that's how I ended up in a very roundabout way in the cruise industry.
So talk about that fateful meeting, reunion, if you will,
Yeah.
with Will that launched the cruise maps.
Yeah, so we'd been housemates at university, as you said, in Southampton, and he is a naval architect, so he's been working since 2010 in the shipping industry, but largely doing things around insurance, and looking at the movement of ships around the world, but from a perspective of collision management. So it's very detailed stuff. And he'd been working with this data set called AIS, which, as a lot of people who know the cruise industry will know, is satellite tracking of ships. The same thing that's behind marine traffic and cruise mapper and these kind of businesses. And I'd not really come across that massively before, but I had a fascination with the cruise industry. I had, as I said, my parents had been in that industry, and I just we got talking about this data and just figured that, aside from the digital platforms of showing where ships are in the world right now and tracking live, there really wasn't any massive consumer usage of that data, right? No one had made a physical product from it. And figured, well, the cruise industry is a big industry, and there's a lot of people who feel really strongly and have incredible memories from the time that they spent at sea. And well, why not try to build something and see if there's a market for it? And we put something out there into the world in July of 2023, and it went a bit crazy straight away, which was amazing. And so it was probably only about 6 weeks after that we both quit our jobs and went full time on this.
Great. So give us an overview about the business, the cruise maps.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk later about how listeners can get their hands on your products.
Absolutely. So put simply, it's just a keepsake map of your cruise, but the specific route that you took. So not just the itinerary route, not where the cruise ship intended on going, but every missed port, every detour, every deviation, all encapsulated within a print map that can either be framed or unframed and gets delivered to your door. And right now, that's something that's totally unique on the market.
So let's talk about your products. So the main product is just a wall hanging, basically.
Yeah.
Consumers can order them framed, unframed. Just out of curiosity, what's the breakdown between framed and unframed?
Most people go for framed. You get a completely hand framed wooden frame delivered to your door, no fuss, and you get a lot of options as well with different frame colors. So that's still the most popular version of it. But the real pull of this as well is that we have a network of print facilities around the world now, which means that we offer free delivery globally, and very quick delivery. So we often can get the map there with you in 5-6 days, and it's a completely custom product. You can add your own personalized title on it. You can add, specific points at sea that will maybe be memorable. A lot of people who've got married on board or engaged on board a cruise ship can mark the exact spot that happened. So it ends up being a pretty uniquely personal product, but one that is not going to take months to arrive with you.
Forgive me if this is a dumb question, but so you just gave an example of someone getting married, and you can mark on the map,
Yeah.
exactly where that was. Is there any capability to add photographs to the map?
There isn't right now, but we are definitely working on that. I think that's going to be something which comes more within our digital product. So this is another thing I wanted to talk about, which was we're launching at the moment something called the Cruise Globe. And this is truly a first for the cruise industry, right? The cruiseglobe.com. And what this is a means to see all of the cruises you've ever been on, all in one digital map, right?
Oh, my
And
goodness.
so whether that's 100 or 200, however many it is, right? And you can see all of your stats, the number of nights at sea, the number of cruise ships you've been on, number of cruise lines, total distance traveled. And within that sort of visual log of your cruise history, you're absolutely, not immediately, it's something we have to build in, but you're going to be able to see and add photos and add, who else was on your cruise and really create this rich visual record of exactly what's happened in your cruising life, I suppose. That launches very, very soon. We've got a wait list at the cruiseglobe.com. We're really, really excited about that.
What other allied products you have? I think I saw something recent you're doing with like an album.
Yeah, the album was actually born out of the fact that we have some customers who love the map so much that they are literally running out of wall space in their home. So for the wall hanging on you always say a lot of people have cruised a lot more than they, and so with that in mind, we thought, well, how else can we display these maps? And what we went out and did is we created something we call the Cruise Album, which is a entirely handmade presentation folder, essentially, but a cloth bound, super, super high quality coffee table book, essentially. And it can fit 25 maps within it. So you can buy the maps, you can slot them into the folder. And again, you get this visual sort of history of all of your cruising. And it's just, from our perspective, it's the perfect coffee table book, right? Because it's on your coffee table. Anyone who comes over, it's got the cruise maps debossed on the front cover. It's just, it invites you in to have a conversation about cruising, which is, of course, kind of what we all love doing, right? So,
wow, love it. What's the how has the receptivity been to your business around the world? It sounds like it's been good, because I remember you saying, it kind of took off, and 6 months later you had to leave your job. Where's the demand coming from, and what type of products are the hottest products, and so on?
I mean, the demands are often coming from word of mouth, which is amazing. The cruise industry is a really tight knit one, I think, and it's one that talks to each other, and that's fantastic because the concept of the cruise maps is, I think, really novel and really easy to get across. This idea of the exact route that you went on, talking together, which is amazing. But we've also been helped enormously by some of the partnerships that we've signed with cruise lines. So we're now working with Cunard, with P&O, with Fred Olsen, with Ambassador, and a lot more in the works, where we essentially create a branded version of our maps. So we design it with their design team, their logo, their fonts, their colors. It looks and feels exactly like one of their products. And you can buy that on board. So, we're getting a lot of customers who hear about us for the first time, seeing a example of the map when they're actually cruising.
Wow, that sounds exciting. When are you guys going to sell some stock?
Maybe soon.
Tell me about it when we're offline.
Will do. I will.
So, Matthew, let's go back. I always ask guests to discuss their own cruise career. Recollect your first cruise. When, what ship, what were your initial impressions of cruising?
Do you know what? I don't have to go too far back here, depending on how you view it. I suppose if you want to go back to when I was first on board a cruise ship, it was in the womb. My parents worked on Cunard ships in the 80s, including the QE2. Dad was an engineer, mum was a nurse, and so I was sort of on board from that perspective before they left. But when I was born, they left the sea, they came back and took shore jobs. And I suppose off the back of that, going away on a cruise holiday was pretty low down their list, right? Because they'd spent all their working lives on at sea. But I actually went on my first cruise properly this year in January, and it was a transatlantic on Cunard, which was it was sort of a little poignant for me, like going back to where it all began for my parents, and I took my mum with me for her first time also on a cruise ship as a passenger rather than an
Really?
employee.
Oh, wow.
Like it was quite cool.
So what were your impressions?
I absolutely loved it. I mean, I obviously don't have a huge basis for comparison. I've been on one since, and I've got another one booked, but I loved it. I loved the peace and quiet, actually. And it might not be what everyone associates with cruising, but with Cunard and transatlantic and the sea days, I absolutely love the ability to just sit with a book in their library is amazing on QM2, on Queen Mary 2. Sit there with a book, an amazing view, have a coffee, and just frankly relax. I mean, it was a winter transatlantic, so there were definitely a few days where it was a little bumpy, and we even had snow mid Atlantic, which was quite something. But no, I absolutely loved it enough that I went and booked two more immediately.
That second cruise, how soon was that, and what was it?
So that was a couple of months ago, a month ago rather. That was a really short one, and that was other listeners might recognize this, but that was a thinly veiled sales attempt to get my wife bought into the concept. We went from Southampton across to Amsterdam and back on Queen Victoria. A bit of a theme here, I'm afraid, with Cunard, but and it was sort of a short sort of taster cruise to whet the appetite, I suppose.
Did you succeed in getting your wife interested?
Do you know what I think? I think I did. I tentatively, but yes.
Good, good.
Yeah.
So, did your parents talk much about their career on QE2? And to the extent that they did that have any influence on what you might do in the future?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, they did, and I've subsequently gone and met a lot of my dad's old friends who were also engineers on board, and some of which were chiefs on Cunard in those days and since still. And just some of the stories from the crew mess things from the 80s sound incredible. I don't necessarily think it's quite the same now, but no, it seems like they had a lot of fun at the time. I think my dad was very set on me not ending up at sea like he was. I think it was sort of something that he enjoyed but thought had changed a lot. But I think what stuck with me was this sense of, I suppose, romance for the history of it all. I think you probably recognize this. I've heard you talk about this before, Paul, but the history of a line like Cunard, I think, is really fascinating with how it all started, and like particularly the transatlantic and how that goes back, over 100 years at least. And I think I took some of that from them.
Let's go back to cruise maps. I have a very dispersed audience across the globe. Your products are all made in UK. How fast can we expect our orders? And you did allude to this earlier, but say something about shipping.
Yeah, so they're not all actually made in the UK. We have a print facility in the UK, and that's our main one, obviously. But we also we have a printer in the US, in Canada, in the Netherlands for the EU, and also in Australia. So we're kind of covering a lot of the cruise audience there, I guess. It is
Okay, so they're shipped like a satellite shipping location.
Yeah, exactly. So they're made to the exact same specifications, but shipped from these satellite print facilities. So, for instance, if it was in Australia, we're not shipping from the UK to Australia. We are sending exactly what needs to be done to the team in Australia, and they are shipping it domestically to someone in Australia. And so that changes it from sort of probably taking about 3 weeks down to 1 week, which is awesome. And same is pretty much true for the US and Canada as well.
Now, I have seen advertisements and read on her newsletter that Cruise Maps is involved with Emma of Emma Cruises.
Yeah, absolutely.
Emma is great, a friend of the show. She's been in a couple of my books, and she's been on my podcast, and her episode remains one of the top 5 of all time. I am sure most of my audience knows of her. Say something about that collaboration.
Yeah, so that was, I guess, really organic, to be honest. We met Emma back in late 2023. This is Will and I'm a co-founder, and just it was this perfect match. She totally got what we were trying to achieve. She obviously has this incredible audience, super loyal to her and her personality and what she does and the content she creates. And I've always, well, since I found out about Emma in the first place, I've loved the authenticity of what she creates, and that just really spoke to what we're trying to achieve here. And so we got talking. We started doing a sort of partnership initially, and then realized, well, actually, you need to be part of the Cruise Maps. She's so baked into what we're trying to achieve. So we went much more forward with it, and she's now a co-founder in the business. So it's me, Will, and Emma.
Oh, okay, great. So what products can we anticipate that are Emma influenced?
So the big one is she has her own limited edition map, which is based around her Captain Hudson mascot that a lot of people will know and love. We designed this with her from the ground up, so it's exactly her specification, her design, and that is available for, well, as it says, a limited time period on the cruisemaps.com.
Great. Well, I have to get Emma back on the show to catch us up with what she's been doing, and also congratulate her and talk about this new collaboration with the Cruise Maps. I'm going to predict that great things will come out of it because, I just have a long history with it. In fact, just a little bit piece of trivia. I wrote 3 books about cruising prior to launching the podcast. And my very first book came out in 2019, called The Joy of Cruising. And Emma was the first person to agree to be in my first book. So that's a little bit of trivia for you.
Yeah, I think that says a lot about her.
Yeah, it does. I have good feelings about Emma. So I asked you earlier about, you guys are ready to sell stock, and then you told me Emma's now a part of the business. I ask again, when are you guys selling some stock?
You're next on the list, Paul.
What does the future hold for the Cruise Maps that you can talk about? I've been in business and both small and big business, and I know that, there's only so much you can share.
Yeah, no, totally. But we are trying to be quite open about our plans. We are still the only company out there that's doing exactly this, and so I think we can afford to be a little more open about what we're doing. And on the map side of the business, and I say on the map side because we have this new product with the Globe, but the map side, it really is about trying to get as many cruise lines partnered with us as possible, because I think the ability to have these in the branding and the style of each individual cruise line is just so cool, and it creates a richer product off the back of it. And so we're very excited about launching a lot of new cruise partnerships in 2025, and there's a lot in the works there. And then the other thing is the Cruise Globe. I am incredibly excited by this because I think the number of cruisers that I've met in the last year since I really got sort of into this space, who have a list on their phone, or they have a spreadsheet of every cruise they've been on, or a list somewhere written down, but very few people have anything more visual than that. And I think there is such demand to see the whole picture and be able to zoom in and see, like, relive the actual route itself. What way did you go into that port, out of that port? Where did you stop in that port? And then start seeing the other people on your cruise, start seeing, be able to track your live cruises and all of these plans around a digital platform, digital app that really captures the visual history of your cruising. I do honestly believe that has the capacity to completely change the game.
Well, best wishes to you. Everything I've heard sounds like you guys, you folks, you Will and Emma have a bright future in front of you. Speaking of the future, you said you had 3 cruises booked. What are they?
So I have I have 3 cruises in total. So one more booked, and that is
one more. Okay, one more booked.
So
All right.
I go into the fjords for the first time, the Norwegian fjords. So I'm very, very excited about that in April.
Which ship?
Queen Mary 2 again. So
Okay.
I do need to branch out. I'm very aware of that, but I really wanted to go up to the fjords, and the timings really worked well. And taking my mum again on that, so didn't win this one on bringing my wife, but so we're going to go up to the fjords for her birthday in April. I'm very, very excited about that. And then next up for me, I really, really want to book a Caribbean cruise. I want to go on one of the big American lines, and also head over to Alaska. So I might be up in your part of the world soon.
Yeah, I have the fjords booked for December out of Southampton, actually. Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But that's on Norwegian cruise line. Do you have a travel or cruise bucket list anywhere in the world you would like to see someday?
I've seen, now, as I said, Alaska and the Caribbean are really high up on my list. But if you wanted to go deep into the bucket list, I think having now seen so many amazing maps being made for Antarctic cruises, and also seeing, I know you're very familiar with Gary as well, Gary Bembridge,
Sure.
Who's been a fantastic partner to the cruise maps as well. But seeing his latest cruise on Silversea down to Antarctica just looked fantastic, and I've always had a fascination with going and seeing the Falklands. So I would absolutely love to do that.
We'll be right back.
You wouldn't want to miss the Sights and Sounds podcast, would you? I didn't think so. Tune in with Alan Kiger.
What do you do, Matthew, in your me time? Or do you have any me time?
Yeah, I think I remember what that was like. But no, there was that. I obviously still do get a bit of time to myself occasionally, but I'm with that, the risk of coming across as a little bit boring here. I'm what I would most be likely be found doing is reading. I have a little library at home, and I spend an awful lot of my time in there, and that's the thing that relaxes me most.
Well, reading is good, and you'll find, if you probably already have discovered, there's no better place, or I'll speak for myself, there's no better place to read than on the Lido deck of a cruise ship. In fact, there's no better place to write. All 3 of my cruise books have been written largely on board a ship. And, staring out at the water, maybe from time to time, looking at the pool, people watching, and listening to Caribbean music. There's no better office in the world.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more there, Paul. It's just, that's my idea of bliss.
Well, Matthew, before we let you go, we usually ask our guests some light or fun cruise related questions. And then one question, I call it an oddball question, because it's not necessarily cruise related. So the first one, this is where I get my ideas and also my pounds. What's your favorite, and I'm talking about pounds like in the UK, I'm talking about, pounds on my body. What's your favorite cruise drink and cruise food.
Cruise drink. Cruise drink, again, I'm going to, at the risk of sounding boring here, but I absolutely loved the quality of the tea on Queen Mary 2 on the transatlantic. Uh, that was just fantastic. So I'm not a drinker myself anymore, so sort of that's as exciting as it gets. But cruise food, I love a steak. If there's a brilliant steakhouse on a ship, I'm right there.
Okay. You know, when you said when you started talking about cruise drink, I thought you were going to say you start off. There's nothing greater or nothing better than. I thought you were going to say cruise
But
coffee, because I have really expanded my knowledge of like espresso drinks. My wife is not a drinker. I am not a big drinker, but we do. We usually get the drink package
yeah,
mainly so that we can enjoy coffees. Other than your traditional coffee. I've even gone out and bought myself an espresso machine, something that I'd have bet a lot of money just a couple of years ago. There's no way I'd ever do that, you know. What's your most wonderful or memorable, funniest, or even most embarrassing cruise or port experience?
one experience. I would say mid-Atlantic, and this is gonna split opinion because some people this is their worst nightmare. But mid-Atlantic in a storm, and with the waves rising, snow on the promenade deck around Queen Mary 2.
Oh, nightmare.
And I actually found it all really intriguing and exciting. I mean, she's such an incredible ship, and so stable, but obviously, some people didn't enjoy it. I thought it was a really cool experience.
So the oddball question, I know that Cruise Maps has a large following, and I hope some of Cruise Maps fans and your friends are listening. We hope your fans and friends have enjoyed what they've heard at the Joy of Cruising podcast, and we'll come back with future or past episodes. Share one thing, Matthew, that my listeners and your friends and fans don't know about Matthew.
I think a lot of people wouldn't know that the first time I actually lived in England, in the UK, was when I was 18. So I
Oh,
was born
wow.
and raised in Hong Kong. So I lived there for 18 years, came across here for the first time, age 18.
Well, the accent suggests you've been there forever.
Exactly. No, but it was very new to me at 18 when I came here for university.
Well, Matthew, it has been great talking to you. As some of the listeners know, well, they know because I mentioned it in the intro. I'm an affiliate with Cruise Maps, and it sounded like a great idea when you guys first approached me. After listening to you today, you've heard me joke about it. I'm ready to invest, or at least I'm ready to hear what the future holds and how I can get in on that. So
We need another chat, that's
yeah,
Paul. But I really appreciate that. It's been an awesome experience having a chat
yeah,
with you today.
it sounds like an amazing business idea that you guys came up with, and I tell you, I love entrepreneurship, and I think about it all the time. What I really love is when someone finds something that's not necessarily consumer oriented and finds a way to make a consumer product out
I
of it.
totally agree.
I feel about you guys like I felt when I interviewed Emma the first time. When I interviewed Emma, she had just surprisingly won the Wave Award in UK. She was 23 years old, and I think she was as shocked as everyone else. But I knew after interviewing her for the book, I even said, I can't remember my exact words, but I can assure you, if you go back to that chapter, not that I'm a prognosticator or anything like that. I don't want to take credit for Emma's success, but I predicted great things for Emma, and it's turned out to be true to form. And I think I can imagine some great things for the cruise maps. So thank you so much for coming on. All the best to you guys. And I'd like to have you on in a year or so just to get a sense of what has happened in that year. And I got a feeling there'll be a lot for you to say. Plus, I want to hear more about your cruising because it sounds like we've got a new cruise fan.
That's very true. I'll definitely have more cruise stories, and we're not slowing down anytime soon. So you're on. Let's chat again in a year.
So, all right, Matthew, as I like to say, we will see you on the ocean.
Absolutely. Nice to see you, Paul.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again for $18.99 can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.